Building Administrator Capacity for Leading Inclusion, a story of practice from Wolf Creek Public Schools. Wolf Creek Public Schools is a rural school division of 7,400 students and over 900 staff members. We're located north of Red Deer on either side of Highway 2. Our motto is creating success for all learners. And guess what? That includes me. Our inclusion story follows a story of the budget, as does many of yours, I'm guessing. We used to have many educational assistants and full-time inclusion coaches in our schools. These inclusion coaches had access to their cohort of inclusion coaches and monthly professional development run out of district office. Over time, inclusion coaches had to share schools and ended up in as many as 4 schools per person. At the same time, budget realities meant that we had fewer educational assistants in our schools supporting our students. Eventually, the dwindling inclusion coach FTE was translated into instructional leadership time, and the inclusion portfolio was shifted fully to administrators. At the same time, we were also facing a large turnover of administrators, resulting in less experience in our administration cohort. We also had fewer educational assistants, resulting in fewer staff available to support diverse student needs. At the same time, the needs of our students was increasing faster than we had seen in previous years. What we did in Wolf Creek was we initiated an administrator inclusion cohort. How we did it this year was we had 2 separate cohorts. One was pre-K to grade 6, and the other was grade 7 to 12. Throughout the 23-24 school year, we had 5 half-day meetings and 1 full-day meeting for each cohort. Every school was required to have 1 administrator participate. However, some schools requested to have 2 administrators participate, depending on the grades in their schools or the experience level of their administrators. We were able to accommodate these requests. I would prepare a common slideshow for each cohort meeting. The slideshows contained links to resources, documents, processes, and any other items that would be useful to the administration. After the cohort meeting, I would share these slideshows with all administrators so everyone had access to the same information. The purpose of this cohort was to leverage existing strengths within our administrator group, to identify and support stretch areas or areas of growth that we found, to enhance administrator capacity with inclusion, to leverage the power of the group think, and to access timely administrator input and feedback as it related to the world of inclusion and supporting student and classroom complexity. For each cohort meeting, we had some standing agenda items. What's on your plates? This was just a review of what was coming up for the administrators before the next cohort meeting. Tasks, deadlines, seasonal items, supporting considerations. I also had our educational psychologist prepare and present what we called a diagnosis deep dive. That was some professional development on a specific diagnosis found in most schools. Each meeting focused on a different diagnosis. We also dug into our admin policies. This was a really good opportunity to highlight some admin policies that some administrators weren't aware of or did not understand some of the different tasks they were responsible for. We always highlighted professional development opportunities for EAs, teachers, administrators. Many of them came from the Alberta Regional Professional Development Consortium, ARPDC website, where I was able to search for inclusion and by the month that I was looking for. Of course, we had our own district-based professional development that we were offering, and any books or resources that we thought would be of use to the administrators leading inclusion in their own schools. We always had just in time topics. And to be honest with you, these were often things that had crossed my desk in the previous month. We did work on supporting bus drivers with diverse students, how to write a good behavior intervention plan, and many other topics. The cohort also gave us an opportunity to welcome other members of our education services team to present to the cohort. This included GSAs, English as an additional language, PUF, exam accommodations, and many other useful topics. This cohort had many, many positive impacts. The sharing of best practices was phenomenal. And a lot of with the sharing was the application of these best practices. We saw a distinct increase in a district perspective with our administrators, that understanding that their school was not the only one facing increased classroom complexity, but also what was happening in other schools, the need for us to take that district perspective when allocating EAs and different resources. The list goes on and on. One of the things that I really appreciated in the cohort experience was the enhanced transparency and confident vulnerability I saw in our administrators. That feeling of safety and the belief in the power of the groupthink was phenomenal. Administrators were asking for help, saying, I don't know, and just being willing to accept that help from their colleagues. We also found that having dedicated time to increasing administrator capacity and understanding around inclusion was really beneficial. We had time in our standing admin association meetings, which take place monthly, but having time with just the administrators who lead inclusion as part of their portfolio had a very different flair than trying to address these topics with all administrators at the same time. We also found that it enhanced connections between administrators and district office. Our assistant superintendents and our superintendent were commonly noted to be in our cohort meetings. They would stop by, sit down, join some presentations or the group discussion. And that really let the administrators know that our senior leaders are involved and aware of the complexities that administrators are facing in their schools. More than anything, the benefit of this cohort model was the increase in administrator capacity around leading inclusion. When I started the cohort, I was a little concerned about having brand new administrators sit next to administrators with 20 years of experience in the world of inclusion. But we found that everyone gained something from the meetings and from the content, which was very exciting and encouraging. Some of the challenges that we faced was, as I just mentioned, the diverse experience levels. We have administrators who have been an assistant principal for 7 months and are now principal. We have others who have been principals for 20 years and very strong in the world of inclusion. Having them all together While at times it was a challenge, at other times we got great benefit out of that diversity. We also recognize that for administrators, time away from their school comes at a cost. Comes at a cost to the people left at the school and to the administrator who's still checking in with their school while attending a meeting. So we were very focused on making sure the meetings were purposeful and timely. We also had the belief that in this situation, with the material that we were discussing, in-person meetings were important in developing that safety, that vulnerability, and the connection between administrators. We did offer a virtual option, but only when very necessary. We also found that supporting specific areas of need were a challenge. That was one of the reasons why we split into two cohorts, because although the content for each cohort meeting was the same, the actual conversations around that content was very different depending on the grade level of the cohort. Budget, of course, always is a challenge. There were some cohort-related costs, such as mileage in a rural district, that adds up. Substitute teacher time to be able to release the administrator or the teacher who is being the acting administrator during the cohort meeting. And we provide meals so that mealtime doesn't cut into our meeting time. The administrator inclusion cohort really aligned with the LQS and the SLQS, as it provides that opportunity to increase the instructional leadership abilities, a student-centered approach, the understanding of inclusion, that visionary leadership. We found that it was just a great fit and allowed us as senior leaders to be able to address those things with our administrators and provide them with the support that they needed. Our next steps as we look ahead to the 24-25 school year, we are continuing with the cohort model because of the amazing benefits that we've seen. We do have to prioritize this in our budget. So as I look at next year, we will be moving to fewer meetings, but they will be full day meetings. That will cut back on some of the expenses, but still provide the time we need to dig into some of these deep and timely topics. I am in the process of gathering feedback from our administrators who were involved in the 23-24 cohort. And as we work on developing next year's plans, I'll be using that feedback. I'm also starting to develop the content for the cohort meetings. For us, I really want this to be purposeful planning. I'm recognizing the need in our second year of the cohort that as we have a large number of new administrators, I will need to do some looping of content while being aware that some people were in the cohort for the second year. I do collaborate with our whole education services team to see what content they have that will need time at the cohort. I also want to be able to dig deeper on some content that requires that additional time. And I'm hoping to have more time in full day meetings to do that collaborative work. I want to do more group problem solving around specific situations or students. I also want to work on specific skill development in a variety of areas. In Wolf Creek Public Schools, we have found over the last year that running an administrator inclusion cohort has been an amazing opportunity and strategy for helping our administrators adhere to the leadership quality standards and for us to help focus on inclusion and dealing with classroom complexity. If you have any questions about this process or how we've approached it in Wolf Creek Public Schools, please use the information listed here and give me a call or shoot me an email. I am all about collaboration. And in Wolf Creek, if we can share what we're doing to help you in your district, we are always willing to do that. Thank you for your time.